today, who's joining us for our live podcast recording of Business Keeps on Dancing. So what we're trying to do with Business Keeps on Dancing is tell a story and really put a spotlight on the people who are traditionally, behind the scenes of events and festivals, and kind of learn their journey and how they've come to put on successful events themselves and also their own career journey. So Yousef, we've got a lot to cover with you today. We've got DJ, label, events, everything in between. So I'm excited to get stuck into it, but thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. Feeling reasonably well rested. I was up at 5:30 to travel down here.
Yeah.
And here we are. And it was 2 hours early, which is quite rare for anything.
Okay, good stuff. I've actually been dying to get you on the podcast for a while, obviously with the Liverpool connection. And I guess just looking at myself as a young raver coming through the ranks in Liverpool, I've danced at your parties, I've watched your sets, I've stayed up till all hours listening to tunes on the label. So for me, it's actually played such a big part into my kind of rite of passage into the world of clubs and music and events. So I guess the question on my mind was, Yousef CIRCUS has been around for so long, and I guess yourself have been around for so many decades. The thing I'm trying to understand today is how you maintained that success for so long, really. And I imagine a lot of stuff has changed in that time, so it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on that. And I've always wondered if you could bottle up that, what's made you so successful, what would be in it? I know that's the $1 million question.
No, it's just that easy, No, it is. It's really, really easy.
Really?
Anybody can do it. It's dead easy. It doesn't matter whether you want to run a coffee shop, or be a pilot, or be a DJ, or work in industry, whatever it is. No distractions. Just put your all into it. And if it feels good in your gut, and that's what you want to do it, and don't let anything else get in the way. Because if you want to kind of pop into something as a part-timer, forget it.
Yeah.
Because that's all you're going to get out of it. But if you really commit to anything and prepared to do hours and hours and hours and hours while all your mates are smoking weed or playing on PlayStations or any of these other irrelevant, pointless distractions, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
But if you're like, okay, I want to be the best I can be, I'm going to practice 10 hours a day doing what you want to do, then eventually it'll come to fruition. Doesn't matter what you do.
Great. Laser focused then. You've answered the very last question that I was going to ask at the end.
Sorry.
We'll work our way back. But one observation that I've certainly seen, I guess, firsthand in the past few months and the past year is your dedication and passion for the scene, and I've seen it firsthand the work you've been doing with Mike Kill and NTIA to really try and save the scene and make sure the whole of the nighttime industry wasn't decimated. And fingers crossed, we're in a place where it looks like it's on the way to recovery. The first dance was obviously a big moment in that. Obviously, Circus in Liverpool was the first music event to take place following lockdown. The videos, the pictures, it went viral. There was so much emotion in it, myself included. I remember walking in and Jay Organ came to meet us at the front. And as soon as I hugged him, my lip was wobbling. I was going straight away, and I was like, what the hell? Like, I've been in this situation so many times.
That happens when you hug Jay. That's James Organ for you.
The side effect of James Organ. But listen, I know you spoke a lot already about the journey from lockdown back to the first dance. What I wanted to find out is, what's the journey been like from the first dance back to events reopening, and what's been that like for you and Circus?
Well, it's been precarious, like very difficult, because obviously after the first dance everything happened and it got like 7 billion interactions around the world, and there was so much kind of energy and attention on it. Of course, when we were allowed to reopen, we kind of opted to take the responsibility to keep testing in the club before it was mandatory by the government. So we were expecting that was going to come with some obstacles and hurdles, but I think because we proved the points and illustrated this is the best way to kind of keep going, and because if you don't stay one step ahead of the game, maybe we won't be able to operate. But fortunately, Warehouse Project, as you know, and then Fabric in London and Shindig in Newcastle and a few of the other places all kind of agreed this is a good thing to do. Let's all just do it ahead of the government. And when it came in, by testing for the government, we were 6 months ahead of the curve. And I think because of that, it really helped us build up a rapport with the audience, the ravers, and it helped us just kind of maneuver through it. Now, what was difficult though was the drop-off. because what was happening, because if people did get COVID or they bought tickets, maybe, sometimes a year, 18 months in advance, then you either forget to go to the gig, plans have changed, don't want to go. So obviously you can't really oversell the gig, so people would arrive in and there'd be kind of sometimes 30, 40% drop off, which is killer. And they might think it's okay if you keep the entrance fee, but it doesn't work like that because the economy works on bar take as well. Yeah. And you've hired the bar staff and the drinks and the security and all that. So it was precarious, and also we lost our venue. So
of course, yeah.
We got taped out after doing the first dance, probably more dark. The reasons I won't go into, which are nothing to do with us, we were asked politely to move on because Everton were bulldozing it very soon after. So we had to find a new venue too, which came with a whole host of difficulties. We found a new venue in the warehouse and we had to kind of purpose it for the events on top of trying to get through it and then sell all the tickets and then have a great time and then make people feel like we've been doing this forever. But really, every day was a new challenge. But within challenges, that's where the good stuff is. When you kind of the back's against the wall, that's when the magic comes out, I suppose. And since August, when we got the venue, by chance we happened to open on Circus' birthday with Carl Cox. It's always a good place to start. So it was fantastic. And then we had a real amazing series of events, and obviously difficult drop off, people not coming, trying to deal with a new venue and other additional complications, shall we say. But overall, since we got back, it's been excellent, I would say. Scary, but excellent.
So looking back on that point up until where you are now, would you say we're fully back to normal as the events industry, from your own experience, fully recovered, or are there still things that you're trying to navigate through?
Well, what we're navigating through at the moment is, of course, we were the only place open in the UK, really. So it was easier to kind of book the major talents for the events, but now everywhere else is open. America was open a bit sooner, but Europe in particular. So now we're finding it really harder to kind of get the kind of major names that we are associated with, we're accustomed to, if you like, because other events have been shut around in Europe for kind of 2 years too. And they're like, okay, we want DJ X, and they're offering crazy fees. And they've got sponsors, and they've got like huge bar takes and all these things, which a lot of them, we don't have sponsors, and we can't offer crazy fees. They're good and they're fair, but so it's become more and more difficult. But Rich, my business partner in Circus, and I spoke saying, look, we've been doing this for 20 years, and Rich is like the master of the masters when it comes to booking. And let's just get our heads down, roll our sleeves up, and let's get back into the trenches and see what we can do. And that's exactly what we've done. So if you look at our calendar now until the end of this year, it's unbelievable. So yeah, I think again, when adversity gives you a kick, that's when the magic happens.
Oh, amazing. Good to see. So do you think, this time next year, do you think everyone will be kind of back fighting as they were? Because it almost felt like when the return of events did happen, there was this huge gold rush of tickets. There was almost like this honeymoon period. Well, it kind of felt like it did peter off, and it did become a struggle, and for many different reasons and things outside of even COVID factors. I think there's a lot of hesitancy at the minute with people buying tickets still, and we are kind of seeing that across the board. So do you think this time next year, do you think we'll be completely back to normal, or how do you see it?
Who knows? Because I think people's appetite for going to raves all night has changed in some ways. Unfortunately, we're daytime, so I think that's why we've kind of circumnavigated it a little bit. It's hard to say because there's variables that you just can't see coming. Like even people being able to travel with airports at the moment, it's a nightmare going to Manchester or anywhere in London. Just trying to get through, so maybe that might put people off travelling and think, you know what, I want to go to events back in the UK because they're great. So, and then the war in Ukraine and all these other things, like you say, wider variables. People might think, you know what, I don't feel like partying at the moment because the world's in a kind of difficult situation.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, traditionally, if you've got a quid in your pocket, the last thing you'll spend it on is getting wasted. So, or going out and having fun. So, who knows? I have to say, in terms of the creativity with the events and the creativity with the artists, and people making music and things like that, it's never been better. And I think that's a lot to do with the slowdown and people having to take time, because the music that's coming through and the artists and the range of artists and colours and creeds, sexualities has never been better. So with that, I think the future looks positive.
Okay, brilliant. So looking at your kind of business as a whole then, and talking about how you keep your business dancing, it'd be good if you could just talk us through everything that sits under your kind of roster of projects and brands and events and labels. What sits under that? How long have we got?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just busy little bit.
Yeah. So with the, I'm interested to see with the team, because obviously it's one thing being a DJ traveling across the globe, it's one thing running a label with huge releases pretty much every month it seems, and then you've got the events in Liverpool, but you take them all around the world as well. Like, how big is the team? Who does what? How do you actually get through that amount of work between you all?
Yeah, well, surprisingly, the team's actually really small. There's me and Rich and Neve. And Neve is a girl that came and started putting on flyers like I think it's 10 years ago, and now she quite literally runs our company, and that's the event side of things. And she knows more about the detail of how to run events than I do, by some way actually. To be perfectly honest, she's brilliant. And then we have Jay Organ, makes you cry. Yeah. And then Tom. So it's a small team. Tom helps me on the label, and he helps me on my socials, and we kind of all muck in a little bit. And then, obviously, when it comes to producing the events, because it's not like we just show up and it's all ready, our warehouse is completely empty. So we have an amazing production company, Sam Newson and his team at Tech UK, who put it all together, and they're literally the best in the business. And we have an amazing health and safety guy. And all these don't work for us, but they work per event, if you like. But in terms of running things, it's absolutely tiny, considering I have another team called Label Works that helps me distribute the label. It gets it onto all the kind of digital sites and things like that. And then another company called Listen Up that helped me market it to radio and the DJs. But it's pretty small. And the way I operate is because obviously DJing is the first thing I do, but then the events close second, if not slightly over now, and then running the label, and then making music, and even making music, even though it's difficult to kind of get a return on it. But creatively, I have to do it because it kind of settles the beast, if you like, and I kind of get that creative juices out of my body, that everything else can kind of get done. But when I'm doing that, and I've been homeschooling my children for 5 months, on top of everything else, it's bananas. But you do find a rhythm.
Yeah.
And because everything is connected as such, we think, okay, I'm going to release this record then because I can put them on the event there, and then, this is what I want to see going forward, and everything's kind of interconnected. It kind of works, but now that the children are not going to be homeschooled in a couple of weeks, then we'll have an extra 25 hours a week to do everything else.
The world your oyster.
Well, so we'll see.
What else could we start?
Is there any jobs? I don't know. I've got stuff like this, which I enjoy doing and working and helping with the MCIA. And so I've done for nearly 2 years now on a volunteer basis, and I love it. Who knows what it's going to lead? And that's how I've always operated. I always give things a go until they turn into something.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I'm doing now.
All these projects are so close to your heart, and I think creatively, you want to have your own steer on it. How do you make sure you've kind of still got an input on all of those different brands, but you obviously haven't got more than 24 hours in a day? Like, what does your week look like? How do you give everything as much attention as it needs, or is that even possible?
No. Rich and I still book circus together. I book most of it, but Rich has really waded in lately. So I do all of that. I run the label in terms of the A&R, signing all the music, making sure that that's all organised. Obviously, I make my own music, but I've got to a point now where, just because of time and because of sonic capabilities, I want my music to sound incredible. So instead of making the music, which could take a day or two, I make sure I bounce off the stems and have them sent off to a really pro studio somewhere for the mix down, so it's really kind of finished. For 2 reasons. 1, I want it to sound better, and 2, I don't want to spend 3 weeks in a car going, oh, I don't know, is that right? And all that stuff. I want it to just be done. Then I can move on to the next creative part, and that's what works for me now. But again, like I say, they all feed into each other. And obviously, I like to exercise as well because it's really important to making sure everything else works. Yeah, other than that, I don't think I do much else. You know?
What's the best part of your job and what's the worst part?
Best part is definitely always a DJ because it's what I do best. And for every DJ set to play, I've got to play new music. It's completely essential. I won't even consider doing a set unless I've got 20 new tunes that I've literally never played, that I've only just like downloaded or bought that day. But when I'm playing those tunes and I'm doing something because I'm quite tricky as a DJ, when they all connect and I'm excited to listen to that music and it goes off and I've done something that's really difficult and it all happens at once, that's the best bit. The worst bit is something that I've really stopped doing, and that's being away from the children. You know, because I'm really hands-on over the top, super committed dada. So I make sure that there's the children and my vitality, and everything else has got to fit around that.
Yeah. It must be, I don't want to say the word difficult, but it sounds like some days you've got to have a kind of DJ public profile hat on, and then some days you need your business hat on. Is that kind of difficult transition in between the two, or is it just you the same person either side?
Well, when I started Circus, and obviously I'd already been a touring DJ already, and then suddenly I had to start picking up the phone at the time to agents to essentially book my mates, and I hated it. You know, I was thinking, I felt like, I wanted to be more of one of them, and even though I had a kind of relatively decent profile, and still do, I didn't like it. But over the years, I've learned to kind of really quite enjoy it, and actually I've got really good at it. So I guess you can just flip between the two quite easily. And like I said before, because there are so many dots that connect, I can just go, hold on a second, and give you a remix or a release on the label. And actually, we're doing something in India, trying to gig over there, and we do all these things, and it's connected. So it's kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
And it's creative in its own way.
Yeah. Well, going back to the early days, and as you mentioned, when you started having to pick up the phone,
Yeah.
What was the first event? Because I think I read an interview once when you said that you and Rich, it was £500 and an idea. That's how it started. What was that first event? Where was it? How did it go? What went right? What went wrong?
What you might not know is originally Circus was meant to be at Cream. Now,
Okay.
I was resident at Cream, it's like a famous nightclub in Liverpool, and that was kind of like Michael Owen or Robbie Fowler playing for Liverpool. I really wanted to do that because I was always on the dance floor. And eventually I got the residency, and then after a couple of years, things at Cream were so different because I was playing like underground house and techno in one room, playing 6-hour sets, and then in the other room there was kind of like candy hard house. It was too much for me, it was too much of a chasm. So I said to them one night, look, let's start our own event. After some crazy party in Miami, which was literally a circus, I was like, okay, let's call it Circus. But then that's a whole different, its own topic, that particular party. But then we came back and I was all excited, we got everything ready, and then Cream shut out the blue, and they shut their weekly for reasons that they understand. So we had all these posters and everything ready, and then so Rich phoned me, who was already my mate, Rich McGinnis, who runs Warehouse Project, Circus, Shibuku, Parklife, who's also one of my best mates, way before any of those accolades. And he said, you just want to do Circus in this club I've got, which is his girlfriend's dad's club at the time called The Mask. And I was like, okay, let's just do it. So we set up, we decided to go halves on the spot. We put £500 in each. And another thing we did, we had all those posters ready, and it said Circus is coming to town, and then a Cream logo underneath. So we went to a local shop and had the Cream logo cut off and put the posters all over Liverpool. it was scouts as it gets. But it really worked. But the first night, it was unexpectedly successful. The energy was there. And with Circus, I've always had the same ethos. I want people to come in, listen to great music, feel relaxed and have a good time, just have a laugh. Because you can listen to serious music and still have fun. It's not kind of never been chimp strokery, even though the music has always been, not noodles, not super underground, but as forward as reality can afford us. You know what I mean? But the first night was really, really fun, and we thought, okay, we're on something here. And since then, we've just continued on, and we're 20 this year.
20? Wow.
20, and we're going to do, hopefully, a series of 20th parties. And, yeah.
So what was the point when it started really picking up traction? Was it just a passion project for the first few, or was there a moment you thought this is going to be like, proper business here?
It was kind of immediate, I suppose, and I think why is because there was a community of people in Liverpool that wanted to listen to underground house and techno, and also wanted to do something that was fun. And our kind of friends circle was growing and growing and growing, friends of friends of friends. Excuse me. And also, we had this circus message board. I don't know if you remember it.
No.
Well, we had this ridiculous chat room. I've just put it up, and it's like a chat room, and you put some stuff up. And a message board. But it became, at one point, the busiest chat message board in Europe.
It was like an online thing?
Yeah, people were just chatting absolute nonsense. Like, from the moment they got into work.
Was this before social media?
Yeah. So
you started it?
It was hilarious. It was really, really, really off kilter. I had to switch it off in the end because it was getting out of control. But my point is, so many people made so many friends on that board, and they'd go into the club and go, are you this person, that person, or the other? And it built a community. And that silliness, coupled with good music, has always been with us.
So at what point, at this point, is it just a club night? At what point did it really start to scale into multiple rooms, bigger venues?
Let's see. We've done a couple of years at the Mask, and then we got an opportunity to do Nation, which is Cream's old venue, because I think we got like bigger lineups. I think one day, because I was booking and said to Rich, we've got Carl Cox, we've got Adam Bain, we've got Dubfire, we've got Davide Scolacci's first gig in the UK, and we've got someone like Deadmau5 and Eric Pritz, and everyone's available. What do you reckon? And Rich is the same thing. Oh, fuck it, let's just do it. So we just did it, and that was that. So we did like our first 3,000 capacity event, which was bananas, in terms of before, during, and definitely after. So we just went on and built from there, and then later down the road, after doing a couple of nations, we had to move to Camp Furnace, because what happened there, I think the Mask, which is now the Arts Club, lost its license. We had literally nowhere to go. So we'd heard of this empty warehouse-ish in the Baltic district. And before Camp Furnace was Camp Furnace, when we got there, it never had any bars or any security or anything. Just give us the keys a couple of days before Christmas and went, help yourself. We were like, okay. So we took our bars in, set it all up, put the booze in and everything. And Christmas Eve, all the booze got whipped. And it was classic. But anyway, we got through that. Another amazing event on Boxing Day. And bit by bit, I guess, it's been a combination of bravery, it's like, let's just do it. And bravado and naivety. And it's kind of got us this far now, but I think we definitely accomplished these days.
And have there been any, talking about some of the action book there and bringing that level of talent to Liverpool, was there any kind of moments where you had that real pinch me, I can't believe the favourite DJ's playing, the crowd's absolutely rocking, this is just so worth all of the kind of late nights for it? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, one on the Circus' first birthday when we got Derek Carter, who was my hero, that got to come play, and he was amazing, and that was great. But then maybe 2 years later, we got an opportunity to book a Laurent Garnier, and again, was just do you want to do it? And Circus was strictly a house club at that point. Very much Chicago, New York house, and Laurent plays everything. And we said, okay, do you want to do it? Because otherwise I'll do it myself under Shibuku, one of his other brands. And I said, let's just do it. And Laurent said, what do you want me to play? And I said, bravely, just do what you want. Play anything you want. Play start to finish in the theatre, which is my room, and he's the only DJ to play all night other than me. And he started off with dub, into reggae, into disco, built up into house, and then this kind of epic, intense techno. Even played like Nirvana, and it was intense, and it was going off. And because it completely broke down that musical genre for us, it almost like changed everything. And also, it happened to be my birthday, and then he came into the small room afterwards. We were in the bar at the mass.
Yeah.
It's like 100 people, maybe like twice the size of the stage. And then he went on to play 3 hours disco for just me and the mates while we all got wasted. And it was absolutely unbelievable.
Insane.
Yeah. And so our relationship with Laurent has been like rock solid and cemented since that moment. And that was probably 16, 17 years ago.
Wow, amazing. When you reflect on some of the best parties, is there like an ingredient to what makes it good? Is it the talent, the crowd, the dates? Do you kind of know when it's launched, if it's going to be a good one?
Well, yeah, I guess there's a lot of ways to look at things, because in terms of like, you want it to be successful, because for me it's really important that people have a good time and they make you feel welcome, and also we don't lose money, because I don't want to be miserable, but unfortunately we've managed to kind of keep our heads above water pretty much. It's been, in 20 years, I think there's been 2 or 3 where it's been like, okay, we took it then. But overall, it's been, solid. But because of that, I just want people to have a good time and see if they can feel the way I do about the music and about the experience, and just having fun in the environment and making friends. And even these days, it's like a generation of people that are married and kids and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think trying to highlight it. Honestly, it's really simple. I just want people to have a good time.
Yeah. And when you talked about some of the ones where you've kind of had to take a hit and take those ones on the chin, you don't have to go into the details, but when you reflect on those events, was it, or kind of moments, like what was it that went wrong? Is there anything you definitely wouldn't do again? Did you learn anything from those shows?
Well, I think one thing you learn is you will always make mistakes. Yeah, even with 20 years experience and working with someone like Rich and myself with so much knowledge. Even then, occasionally, you drop the ball. Not often at all. It's very few and far between. But with a venue now that's 3,000 capacity, and you have to build it. If you drop the ball, you know about it. But, like I say, overall, very few and far between.
Yeah. And with those events, is it from the launch, you just kind of get a feeling like the reaction's not been great, or is it kind of, at what point do you think this probably isn't going the way that, we want it to go?
Well, it's usually a combination of things. Like, we did a Solomon show not long ago, and obviously Solomon's one of the biggest names in the world and is really popular in Liverpool, and everybody wanted to see him. But we got offered a date, and my gut was like, don't do it regardless, because, it doesn't feel right. But we did it anyway, and it was solid, and everyone had a great time. But the reality was, it didn't work economically at all, because we only got half the people in there, and it was because it was a couple of days before Christmas, and that was a mistake. You can't mess a few days before Christmas in Liverpool. Everyone's in the boozer.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you are. So that was the mistake.
So how many decades would you say you've been in the music industry, starting from when you first started DJing?
Probably 2.5.
2.5 decades,
Yeah.
Okay. So I imagine a lot of stuff has changed since then. I guess the obvious of kind of social media being a thing, musical trends, just, events becoming a lot more experiential, and I guess as, festivals come into the mix, all that type of stuff. What are you happy about that has changed in that time?
Let's see. I'm happy that people have more access to music. Rather than because I've never been one to I've got this, you can't have it. I want everyone to be invited to the party, and I don't really understand why people would make a record and not let people play or have that record. And the whole point of it is so many people can hear it as possible, surely. So I do like that there's a level playing field of sorts. Obviously there's a lot of vinyl releases you just can't get hold of, but that's kind of expanded the scene so much in terms of the access to being able to make music, play music, prepare, do your own events, and therefore it's afforded us to be the most significant musical situation since rock music, since the 50s, and it's not going anywhere. And it's because technology has advanced in a lot of ways. So yeah, you can't walk into like a hairdresser's or a supermarket without some form of electronic music playing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, even when I look back to like when I first started getting into dance music and DJing and stuff, it wasn't. No one was really a DJ. It wasn't a thing. I remember when I got decks, my family were like, "What the hell are decks? Like, what you want about?" Whereas now, even that must have been, I don't know, about 10 years ago now, and like all kids are getting decks for Christmas, and like people are messaging Lauren all the time saying, "My little cousin wants DJ lessons," but it's mad how much that's just changed in 10 years alone. But as you say, it's dance music as a whole is becoming a lot more accessible. Is there anything when you look back to when you first started out that you wish had stayed the same?
I've got no problem moving forward with anything, with like any aspect of my life at all. I'm happy that happened, and I'll move forward on to see. I always want to see what's around that corner.
Okay, so you're not one of those who's, back in the day, it wasn't like
I
this.
had this conversation with someone the other day, and they were kind of yakking on and moaning about phones in clubs. And I was like, okay, so you're trying to tell me that if you had said Cream in 1992 or whatever it was, and you had a phone then, you wouldn't have recorded like Roger Sanchez or whoever it was doing this thing. You definitely would have. The phones in clubs are a symptom of the fact that we live in 2022, not 1992. And you have to just kind of embrace what's happening in that particular moment. And if people want to share that moment, then so be it. They are having the same experience and the same connection with the music and the friends and the excitement and buying the clothes and doing the hair and all those things that we had then. It's just more technology involved. They still feel the same, surely, or they wouldn't go.
Yeah. I try and catch myself and try not to do it when I'm on a dance floor and try and enjoy the moment. But then I think I actually love looking back on those moments. And the reason I want to record it's not so much posting for the people. I love just looking back at those moments. And I've got videos from the first dance and all of that kind of stuff. And I love just kind of now and then going back and reflecting on it. And I think you've got to kind of take the pros with the cons. But,
Precisely. And, okay, it's cool that there's some venues that kind of refuse phones. And I'm definitely down with that, obviously. Panorama bar and stuff like that, and I love it to kind of get lost in the experience. And I don't record things myself, but my point is, if other people enjoy that, it's just a symptom of 2022.
Yeah. So if you think about your journey from when you started out, how you launched everything, if you had to launch Circus and your DJ career and everything now in kind of 2022, how would you do it? Do you think it'd be different? Do you think it'd be possible to achieve everything that you've achieved if you launched it right now?
Well, who knows? I mean, obviously, I came through from winning a DJ competition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that gave me, how can I put it, the key to a door rather than kind of kicking the door in. It was an opportunity to kind of think, okay, that's the path, now you've got to run down it. And that's exactly what I did. Leg down and kicking every door in possibly since then, and I haven't stopped. I think, what would I do differently? Sometimes I reflect upon, in my 20s, when I was touring around the world a lot. I still am, but what I mean is, I used to get wrecked a lot more, and I was the party boy a lot of times, which meant Tuesday to Thursday, or Monday to Thursday were just like wipeouts, and that's fun, but it meant I didn't get anything done, really, and I wasn't kind of learning how to make music as fast as I should, and I wasn't honing my craft better than it could be, and all those things. But do I regret it? Because it was so fun, and it was hilarious, and it was great times, and even to this day, I can guarantee I'll see someone here, like Jenny just there, that I met on that same journey.
Okay.
And all these years later, me and Jenny are still great friends. Like, we had those silly experiences in Ibiza all those years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if it would change anything or do anything different, other than I would remind myself that you have to work hard constantly.
Yeah.
And I was working hard, but I think maybe I could have worked harder, because I've got to be self-sufficient in everything I do. Personal reasons.
Yeah.
No one's really ever done anything for me, because I like to kind of, it's not a control thing, it's an assurance thing.
Yeah.
As in to make sure that, like, is it getting done? Kind of make sure that I can provide for myself. And that's why I do so many things simultaneously.
Yeah. And even, I guess, with social media now, I guess it's a lot easier to do the equivalent of what that networking was without having to go out. But do you think it's still as important to be on the dance floors, be in the green rooms, just get talking to people? That's where all these opportunities come from, because there's definitely an element of social media perhaps blocking that to an extent.
Yeah, it's catch-22, isn't it, really? Because I think you do need to be amongst it. And I would always say to anyone that's trying to kind of start, even with us, come down and hang out, have a few drinks, it'll be a laugh, and you're not going to leave empty-handed, even if all you've had is a good night.
Yeah.
So doing the networking thing is important. I guess the social media thing, I'm okay at it. I don't enjoy it that much. I don't like giving myself too much away, if you like. That's just me. But some DJs don't do it at all. Like Jamie Jones doesn't really do it, Mark McCraw doesn't do it, Dice doesn't do much of it, but then you get the other end of the spectrum who are obsessed by it, it's a completely different spectrum of who you're trying to aim for as well, because I said before, the scene is so broad and wide and available to so many people. It's not small to record buyers and those beyond anymore. So I guess there's a place for everybody, but I just can't do TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a talk on TikTok later on if you want to call.
Yeah, I'm just rubbish at it. I just can't give myself. I've done 3 posts, and even they make me cringe.
Well, speaking of kind of new trends and things coming through, keeping your finger on the pulse, I think, is something that's so important. And of being around the music industry for as long as you have been, you will have had to do that. So how do you keep that beginner's mindset? Because I guess with you, it's not just trying to keep a beginner's mindset with promoting events, it's with DJing, production techniques, running a label, A&R, social trends. There's a lot for you to kind of keep up with there. So is it a conscious thing that you do, or is it, how does that process look like?
It's really important. It's in a lot of ways fed by the label, because I'm signing music from people that you would never heard of, that suddenly, bigger names. I've had their music on the label for 2-3 years, and they're kind of like starting to cut through, and I'm telling Rich, look man, this is coming down the path, which is useful for him in his other activities, if you like. But the way that the things work at Circus, it's always been kind of like a major name at the top, me in the middle, kind of halfway between, and then newness at the bottom. So even like 20 years in, I'd say every single event, pretty much, we've always booked a completely new name, like just completely unheard of, and it really helps like move things forward. But I'd say the one thing that keeps me on my toes is listening to other DJs. It's really important. I think that's vital. And also just seeing what's going on out there with other events and then other labels, and taking meetings and spending time, and just, I could say, being immersed into it. As to quote Seth, is you've got to be a lifer.
Yeah.
You really need to kind of, if you want to make this your life and career, you've got to commit to it.
And even now, do you still feel like you need to be out on the events, getting a sense of what's happening on the dance floor? Because obviously the old DJ gets tougher to be out every weekend and in between DJing. So is that something you still try and kind of keep?
I like to, but I don't do it as often as I could or should. But largely because obviously children vitality and everything else comes around that. But when I do go out and I see another person playing I'm really into, and I feel motivated and inspired and ready to kind of get in the studio more than everything, which again feeds everything else. So I think it's important, but as long as you don't disappear.
Yeah.
For 2 days.
Yeah.
Which I've not done for years.
Slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah. But I don't, I'm even when I go to Ibiza, normally I go in the morning, do the gig in the day, and try to get the flight home.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anything to intrude on my kind of mechanics of what I'm doing.
Has that evolved over the years? Like just looking after yourself and mental health and avoiding burnouts? Because I guess there's a bit maybe pressure in the early years of DJs to kind of just got to be going to the after parties, and that's your form of networking. Was there a point you just had to stop, look after yourself? Was it starting to affect your health?
Well, I think it was a symptom of having the children. Literally when the children came along, it was like off, and that was it. And I've not gone back since. And my son's like 8. But also, I like to make sure I've got the vitality to continue being able to be on the road. as such. And, you know, like with vitality, you're able to make better decisions and run your businesses better and sleep better and all those things. And look, man, I put a shift in. So it's okay. I've had lots of fun. And also, you know, having children as well, because I'm so committed to it. And it's actually really, really funny as well. You know, it's not that different to having an after party, to be totally honest. It's like your house is just as trashed. Yeah, and like they're really good fun, and it feels nice, you know, just to be a dada. And I've had a great time, you know, doing all that stuff, and it's fun.
Cool. So Annie Mac last week announced that she's doing a new club night, and it's called Before Midnight. And she did a video about it. It was great, and she said a lot of club nights aren't accessible for people who need sleep, and a lot of people need sleep. So she's doing this new club night concept where you go in at like 7, 8 o'clock, just rave your heads off for 4 hours, and then you're in bed by midnight, which I thought was genius. So I guess you've got the day raves as well to do that.
I've been doing it for 8 years. To be honest, I did see that, and I was like, okay, yeah, great. But you know, nevertheless, she's got a point at least. But that is interesting because when we started doing our day parties, the demographic went from 18 to 30 to 18 to 40.
Yeah,
like literally instantly. You know, so people will come in and for those exact reasons they can, especially if they've met at Circus, if they've kids because of it and all those things, and they come in and it's kind of a nostalgia trip. And usually around that age, a lot of them know us. So we kind of give them a bit of access to backstage and drinks and stuff like that, so we can have a sit down and with slippers and stuff like that. but yeah, you know, it works, and I think it's good for the industry. And again, it illustrates how wide a range the music is. Now it's not going anywhere, and it appeals from literally almost like life to death in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So looking back then, I know you mentioned earlier on you've got no regrets. You know, you've kind of learned your lessons, and you're glad you've done everything in the way that you've done. Looking into the future, which I know is hard, we haven't got a crystal ball. You know, when you think of your DJ career, the label, the events, have you got a goal of where you want to take it? Is there a kind of North Star that you're working towards?
It changes every week. Yeah, and that sums me up in a lot of ways. Yeah, I've kind of got the attention span of someone that should be wearing shorts on a day-to-day basis. And I don't mean to break it, but no, you know, so sometimes I want to really concentrate on my DJ career a lot more, and that's where I'm at the moment, you know, making all these tunes and things like that. I want to be the touring DJ more, even though I still am, but then that compromises my vitality. But then I want the events to be really successful, and that's okay because it doesn't compromise my vitality, but it means I'm on the road. Then I want to make tunes a lot more, but you don't get anything back from it really. But it is kind of its own outlay. So you can ask me every week, and you know what? The one thing I want out of this, and one thing I've kind of achieved above everything, is I've made something that I love doing in my career. You know, and that's the top achievement.
Yeah, brilliant. I guess we've touched on what you felt like has made your journey so successful in terms of determination. You said that's a non-negotiable for you. Like that's just been the way that you've achieved everything you have. When you look back, were there any kinds of like sliding doors moments, or like when you reflect of your secret to success and how you've done it? Has there been moments in time or anything else that has landed you to where you are today?
I think, yeah, there's probably lots. Like my first gig at Pasha when I won the competition, and life changed overnight because I nailed it to the floor, and I just thought that's how everyone plays. Turns out they don't, and things changed. Then I got an agent and a manager, and things started on their road. I think meeting Rich when in Cream, he seen a picture of me in Music magazine, and then he was like, "Do you want a gig in Ireland?" And he gave me my first gig on a plane to go to Ireland, which is a whole different story as well. But I guess it's just time, effort, creativity, because I'm a really naturally creative person. But I'm also very much into kind of putting a shift in. You know, you've got to do both. I think a lot of live artists don't realise you've actually got to do the business and the hard work side of things as well. But yeah, you know, sliding doors moments, get myself out of bed and just thinking this is what I want to do. I used to practice for 10 hours a day, DJing when I first got my decks, every day for years. And it's exactly what I do now with circus. Practice everything, like 10 hours a day, doing one thing or another. So, same principle.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been so interesting to listen to your story, and thank you for all the memories you've given me on dance floors and events, and kind of helped me with my journey into working in music and events as well. So it's been fascinating, and can't wait to see what you're up to next.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You.
Thanks so much.